I was about to announce our final descent into Paris when I looked down and saw my husband, holding another woman's hand in first class. He didn't know his wife was flying the plane. Let me tell you about the moment I realized my 12-year marriage was a lie, at 35,000 feet, with 247 passengers depending on me to stay calm. My name is Captain Marina Castellanos. I've flown through hurricanes. I've landed planes with failing engines. I've kept my composure when birds shattered my windscreen at 400 miles per hour. But nothing prepared me for the sight of my husband, Daniel, leaning across seat 2A, whispering into another woman's ear while she giggled and squeezed his hand. He thought I was in London. He thought I was flying a different route. He thought he'd covered his tracks perfectly when he told me about his emergency business meeting in Paris. But here's what Daniel didn't know. I switched my flight schedule earlier. I knew exactly where he'd be. And for the next hour and 27 minutes, he was going to sit in that seat, completely unaware that his wife was the one controlling this aircraft. He couldn't run. He couldn't hide. He couldn't even get off. He was mine. The Boeing 787 Dreamliner cuts through the darkness over the Atlantic like a silver bullet. Inside the cockpit, I run through my pre-landing checklist with mechanical precision, my hands steady on the controls even though my heart is hammering against my ribs. Air France 447 Heavy, descend and maintain flight level 280, air traffic control crackles through my headset. Descending to 280, Air France 447 Heavy, I respond, my voice perfectly calm. Professional. Controlled. My co-pilot, Jean-Luc, a veteran with 30 years in the cockpit, glances at me sideways. He knows. I told him everything during our briefing in New York. He offered to take over the landing. I refused. Behind us, through the reinforced cockpit door, the main cabin glows with soft amber lighting. Passengers doze under thin blankets, watch movies on seatback screens, sip wine. They're heading to Paris for romance, for business, for new beginnings. In first class, seat 2A, my husband of 12 years sits next to a woman I'd never met. A woman young enough to be his daughter. A woman wearing the Cartier bracelet I thought he bought for our anniversary. He has no idea what's coming. Before I tell you what happened next, before I reveal how I made sure Daniel would never forget this flight, I need you to do something for me. Hit that subscribe button right now. Smash the like if you believe in karma. And drop a comment telling me where you're watching from and whether you think I went too far with what I'm about to tell you. Because trust me, you won't believe how this ends. I wasn't born into privilege. I wasn't handed anything. I grew up in a cramped 2-bedroom apartment in Queens, New York, where the walls were so thin I could hear our neighbors arguing every night. My father worked double shifts at a warehouse. My mother cleaned houses for wealthy families in Manhattan, the kind of families who lived in penthouses with views of Central Park, the kind of families who never looked her in the eye when they handed her a paycheck. When I was 7 years old, my mother took me to work with her one Saturday. While she scrubbed toilets and polished marble countertops, I wandered to the living room window and watched a plane trace a white line across the sky. It looked so free. So powerful. So far away from everything that felt small and suffocating about my life. Mommy, I said, pressing my hands against the glass, I want to fly planes when I grow up. She didn't laugh. She didn't tell me it was impossible. She just dried her hands on her apron, walked over, and kissed the top of my head. Then you'll fly, Mija. You'll fly higher than all of them. It took me 16 years to make that dream real. 16 years of working 3 jobs while attending community college. 16 years of sleeping 4 hours a night, studying aerodynamics and meteorology in the break room of the diner where I waited tables. 16 years of saving every penny for flight school while my friends went to parties, took vacations, lived their 20s the way you're supposed to. I got my private pilot license at 23. My commercial license at 25. By 28, I was a first officer for a regional airline, flying turboprops to cities no one had ever heard of, building hours, building experience, building the life I'd promised my mother I'd have. She died 3 months before I made captain. Heart attack. Sudden. She was 56 years old and she'd spent her entire life breaking her back so I could chase the sky. She never got to see me in my uniform. She never got to see her daughter's name, Captain Marina Castellanos, printed on a crew roster. She never got to know that every single sacrifice she made was worth it. I became one of the youngest female captains at Transatlantic Airways at 34. Out of 8,000 pilots, only 312 were women. Only 47 were captains. I'd earned my place in that cockpit. Every single hour. And then I met Derek Ashford. It was at a charity gala in Manhattan, one of those black tie events where tickets cost more than most people's rent. I was there as a guest of the airline's CEO, representing the new face of aviation. Derek was there closing a real estate deal, looking devastating in a Tom Ford tuxedo, charming everyone in the room with that smile that could sell ice to Eskimos. He approached me at the bar. "So you're the famous Captain Castellanos," he said, handing me a glass of champagne I hadn't asked for. "I heard you landed a 777 in a thunderstorm last month with zero visibility. That true?" "Visibility wasn't zero," I corrected him. "It was 1/8 of a mile." "And yes." He laughed. Looked at me like I was the most interesting woman he'd ever met. "I'm Derek. I buy buildings. You fly planes. I think you win." We were married 18 months later. For 12 years, I thought I'd found my partnership. My equal. Derek came to every promotion ceremony. He bragged about me to his business partners. "My wife flies 787s across the Atlantic. What does your wife do?" He posted photos of me in uniform on his Instagram with captions like, "Proud husband of the most badass woman alive." When I came home exhausted from 15-hour duty days, Tokyo to New York, London to Sao Paulo, Dubai to Los Angeles, he'd have dinner waiting. He'd rub my feet. He'd listen to me vent about difficult passengers and mechanical delays and the male pilots who still treated me like I was playing dress-up in a captain's uniform. "You're incredible, Marina," he'd whisper, pulling me close. "Don't ever let them make you doubt that." I loved him. God, I loved him so much it hurt. We talked about kids. I wanted them, badly. I wanted a little girl I could take to the cockpit, show her the sky, tell her she could be anything. Derek always agreed. "Soon, baby. Let's just wait until your career stabilizes. Until my business levels out. Until the timing is perfect." The timing was never perfect. But I was patient. I trusted him. Even when my schedule got brutal, back-to-back long-haul flights, 70-hour work weeks, layovers in foreign cities where I'd collapse in hotel rooms and wake up disoriented, forgetting what country I was in. Even when Derek started being too understanding about my absences. "Take the extra shifts, babe. Build your seniority. I'll be fine. I've got deals to close anyway." Even when he started asking detailed questions about my schedule. "So you're in London Tuesday through Thursday? And you land Wednesday morning? What time exactly?" I thought he was being attentive. Caring. Making sure he knew when I'd be home. I didn't realize he was tracking my absence. The signs were small at first. Easy to dismiss. Derek glued to his phone at dinner, smiling at texts he wouldn't show me. "Just client stuff," he'd say, flipping it face down on the table. "A charge for a Cartier bracelet on our joint credit card, $2,400. When I asked about it, he kissed my forehead. "Anniversary gift, baby. You'll see it soon." Our anniversary was 4 months away. I never saw the bracelet. Receipts for restaurants I'd never been to. Business dinners, he explained. Investors. Clients. Boring stuff. New cologne. Designer suits I'd never seen before. A gym membership he suddenly used religiously, coming home at 10 p.m., after leg day, smelling like shower gel and secrets. And then, 3 weeks ago, I found the hotel reservation. I wasn't snooping. I was looking for our insurance documents on his laptop. A browser tab was open, Hotel Plaza Athénée, Paris. Junior Suite. March 14th to 17th. 2 guests. March 14th was this Friday. Today. My blood turned to ice. I clicked on his email. Found the confirmation. 2 first-class tickets on Transatlantic Airways Flight 447. New York to Paris. Seats 2A and 2B. Derek Ashford and Sienna Blake. I didn't know who Sienna Blake was. I googled her. 26 years old. Marketing manager at Derek's company. Instagram full of selfies with captions like "blessed" and "living my best life." In one photo from 2 months ago, she was wearing a Cartier bracelet. My bracelet. The one he bought for our anniversary. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I didn't throw his laptop across the room like I wanted to. I closed the browser. Shut the laptop. Walked to the bathroom and stared at myself in the mirror. Captain Marina Castellanos. You've handled engine failures at 40,000 feet. You've landed planes in crosswinds that would terrify most pilots. You've built a career in a world designed to break you. You can handle this. So I made a plan. I checked the crew roster for Flight 447, March 14th, New York JFK to Paris CDG. Captain Rodriguez was scheduled. I called scheduling. I need to take Rodriguez's Paris flight on Friday, I said calmly. Family emergency. I'll owe you. The scheduler hesitated. Marina, that's really last minute. Please. She heard something in my voice. Okay. I'll make it work. You're on Flight 447. The morning Derek left for Paris, I packed his suitcase for him. Folded his favorite shirts. Rolled his socks. Tucked in his toiletry bag. I even packed the anniversary card I'd bought him months ago, the one that said, "To my partner in everything. I love you more than words." I placed it on top of his clothes where he'd see it. When he kissed me goodbye at the door, I smiled. Have a safe trip, baby. Close that deal. He squeezed my hand. I'll miss you. I'll call when I land. I know you will. I watched him drive away in his Tesla. Watched until the car disappeared around the corner. Then I put on my uniform, grabbed my crew bag, and headed to JFK. He thought I'd be in London. He thought he was safe. He had no idea that in few hours, I'd be the one in control, and he'd be trapped in a metal tube at 35,000 feet with nowhere to run and no way to lie his way out. I didn't sleep the night before the flight. I sat in my apartment, our apartment, surrounded by 6 years of marriage in picture frames and shared furniture, and I planned every single move like I was coordinating an emergency landing. Because that's what this was. An emergency. My marriage was going down, and I needed to control the descent. At 2 a.m., I called Gabriela. Gabriela Reyes, my best friend since flight school, now a divorce attorney at one of Manhattan's most ruthless law firms. The kind of lawyer who'd made millionaire husbands weep in depositions. The kind of lawyer who collected evidence like some people collected shoes. Marina. Her voice was thick with sleep. What's wrong? I need you to tell me exactly what to do, I said, my voice steady despite the rage burning in my chest. And I need you to do it now, because in 14 hours, I'm going to be flying the same plane as my cheating husband and his mistress. There was a pause. Then, oh, shit. Okay. I'm awake. Tell me everything. I told her about the hotel reservation. The tickets. Sienna Blake. The Cartier bracelet. Every lie, every late night, every time Derek had kissed me goodbye while planning his betrayal. Gabriela didn't interrupt. When I finished, she was quiet for exactly 3 seconds. Marina, listen to me very carefully. You have something most betrayed wives never get, control. He's walking into your domain. Your aircraft. Your authority. You can use this, but you have to be smart. No violence. No screaming. No doing anything that could cost you your career. Understand? I understand. Good. Here's what you're going to do. She talked for 40 minutes. I took notes on hotel stationery, my handwriting sharp and precise. Step 1. Document everything. Screenshot the hotel reservation. The flight manifest showing Derek Ashford and Sienna Blake in seats 2A and 2B. Every credit card charge. Every text message I could access. Gabriella would file for divorce Monday morning, but she needed ammunition. Step 2. Brief the flight attendants I trusted. Make sure they understood the situation. Position them strategically so they could witness, and if necessary, record, whatever happened in first class. Step 3. Stay calm. Stay professional. Let Derek's panic and arrogance destroy him. Men like him always talk themselves into deeper holes, Gabriella said. You just need to give him the rope. Step 4. Use the most powerful weapon I had, my voice. My authority. The fact that for the next 8 hours, Derek Ashford would be in my world, under my command, with 300 witnesses watching. But Marina, Gabriella warned, her voice turning serious, you need to be prepared for what comes after. Once you do this, there's no going back. Your marriage is over. Are you ready for that? I looked at the wedding photo on my nightstand. Derek in his tuxedo, me in my white dress, both of us laughing like we'd just won the lottery of love. That woman in the photograph felt like a stranger now. I'm ready, I said. He ended this marriage the moment he bought her that bracelet. I'm just making it official at 35,000 feet. Gabriella laughed, sharp and approving. God, I love you. Call me when you land. And Marina? Make him hurt. I arrived at JFK 4 hours before departure. The crew briefing room was buzzing with the usual pre-flight energy, pilots reviewing weather reports, flight attendants checking passenger manifests, everyone moving through their routines with practiced efficiency. My co-pilot, Jean-Luc Moreau, was already there. 62 years old, silver-haired, with 35 years of flying experience and a French accent that made even technical jargon sound elegant. We'd flown together dozens of times. He was one of the few men in this industry who'd never once questioned my authority or made me prove I belonged in the left seat. Marina, he said warmly, standing to shake my hand. Good to see you. I heard you took this flight last minute. Family emergency, I said evenly, which wasn't technically a lie. Nothing serious, I hope. It will be resolved by the time we land. Something in my tone made him study my face more carefully. Jean-Luc had been married for 40 years. He understood the weight of certain silences. If you need anything during the flight, he said quietly, I'm here. Thank you. I pulled aside 3 flight attendants before boarding, Keisha, Marcus, and Yuki. All of them had worked with me for years. All of them knew I didn't ask for favors lightly. We gathered in the galley, away from the other crew. I need your help with something unusual, I began. It's personal, but I promise it won't interfere with safety or service. Keisha raised an eyebrow. Girl, what's going on? I took a breath. My husband is on this flight. Seat 2A. He's traveling with his mistress in 2B. He doesn't know I'm the captain. He doesn't know I switched schedules. And I need you 3 to be my eyes and ears in first class. The silence that followed was deafening. Then Marcus, 6'3", former military, with a smile that could disarm terrorists, let out a low whistle. Oh, hell no. I'm going to make an announcement mid-flight, I continued. When I do, things are going to get uncomfortable up there. I need you positioned with your phones ready. Document everything he says, everything he does. Passenger reactions. All of it. Can you do that? Yuki's eyes were wide. Marina, are you sure? This could get messy. It's already messy. I'm just controlling how it ends. Keisha crossed her arms, a slow smile spreading across her face. Honey, I have been waiting for a moment like this. I've got your back. We all do. Marcus nodded. First class is going to get a show they'll never forget. Just remember, I said firmly, we keep this professional. No interference with his safety, no denying him service. Everything by the book. But if he makes a scene, if he tries to leave his seat and come to the cockpit, you stop him. Understood? Understood, Captain. At 5:45 p.m., I watched the passengers board through the cockpit security camera. Business travelers with laptop bags. Families with excited children. Couples holding hands, heading to Paris for romance. And then, at 6:02 p.m., I saw him. Derek walked down the jetway in a Navy Hugo Boss suit I'd helped him pick out last year. His hair was perfectly styled. He was laughing at something on his phone, completely at ease, completely confident that he'd gotten away with it. Behind him, Sienna Blake. Blonde hair in effortless waves. Designer dress that probably cost more than my mother earned in a month of cleaning houses. She was giggling, touching Derek's arm, looking up at him like he hung the moon. My hands tightened on the armrest. Jean-Luc glanced at the monitor, then at me. Marina? That's him, I said quietly. 2A. Jean-Luc's expression darkened. Ah. I see. He was quiet for a moment. What are you going to do? I'm going to fly this plane safely to Paris, I said, my voice steady as steel. And I'm going to make sure Derek Ashford never forgets this flight as long as he lives. Do you need me to take over at any point? No, I met his eyes. I need to do this myself. He nodded slowly. Then I support you. Whatever you need. At 6:28 p.m., the cabin door closed. At 6:35 p.m., we pushed back from the gate. At 6:47 p.m., we were cleared for takeoff. I advanced the throttles. The Dreamliner's engines roared to life. 247 passengers settled into their seats, trusting me to deliver them safely across the Atlantic. In seat 2A, Derek Ashford had no idea that his wife, the woman he'd betrayed, dismissed, lied to for months, was the one in control. The nose lifted. The wheels left the ground. We climbed into the darkness over New York City, the skyline glittering below like scattered diamonds. Jean-Luc handled the radio calls. I focused on the climb, on the instruments, on keeping my breathing steady. At 35,000 feet, we leveled off. The seatbelt sign chimed off. The cabin lights dimmed to their cruise setting. Keisha's voice crackled through the intercom. Captain, first-class service is about to begin. Passengers in 2A and 2B have ordered champagne. Of course they had. Copy that, I replied. I reached for the PA microphone. My hand was perfectly steady. Jean-Luc looked at me. You're sure about this? I've never been more sure of anything in my life. I pressed the button. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Captain Marina Castellanos speaking. My voice filled the cabin, calm, professional, unmistakably mine. In seat 2A, Derek Ashford froze mid-sip of his champagne. We've reached our cruising altitude of 35,000 feet. Weather looks clear all the way to Paris. We should have a smooth flight with an on-time arrival at Charles de Gaulle. Through the security camera, I watched Derek's face drain of color. His hand trembled. Champagne sloshed over the rim of his glass. Sienna leaned toward him, whispering something. He didn't respond. He couldn't. He was staring at the ceiling speaker like it had just announced the end of the world. Because for him, it had. Before we continue, I said, letting a slight edge creep into my professional tone, I want to take a moment for something personal. You see, it's not often that a captain gets to fly with her husband in the cabin. So I'd like to give a very special shout-out to Derek Ashford in seat 2A. The cabin went silent. Passengers lowered their books, paused their movies, pulled out earbuds. Derek, sweetheart, I hope you're comfortable up there in first class. I worked really hard to earn enough seniority to fly this route. It's amazing what you can accomplish when your spouse is so supportive of your career. Sienna's head whipped toward Derek. Your wife? Her voice carried. First class wasn't that big. And Derek, I continued, my voice still perfectly pleasant, perfectly controlled, I'm absolutely fascinated to know, who's your lovely travel companion in seat 2B? I don't think we've been introduced. Should I be expecting her at our next family dinner? Or is this more of a private getaway? A woman across the aisle gasped audibly. A man in 3C pulled out his phone. Derek stood up so fast he knocked his champagne into his lap. I need to speak to the captain. Now. Marcus appeared instantly, blocking the aisle with his considerable frame. Sir, Federal aviation regulations prohibit passengers from entering the cockpit during flight. Please return to your seat. That's my wife up there. Derek's voice was climbing, panic making it shrill. Marina. Marina. Sir, you need to sit down. You're creating a disturbance. Every passenger in first class was watching now. Phones were out. Someone was definitely recording. Sienna had gone pale. You told me you were divorced. You showed me apartment listings. You said. Sienna, just, let me explain. Explain? Your wife is flying this plane. Ladies and gentlemen, I said over the PA, my tone turning to ice, I apologize for the disruption. It seems my husband is having some difficulty processing this surprise reunion. Derek, honey, please sit down. We have 7 more hours together. I'd hate for you to spend them restrained in your seat, though I'm sure our flight attendants would be happy to provide zip ties if necessary. The cabin erupted in shocked whispers. Keisha's voice came through on the crew intercom, barely containing laughter. Captain, should I get the restraints ready? Stand by, I replied calmly. Let's give Mr. Ashford a chance to make the right choice. Derek sank back into his seat, his face the color of old newspaper. Sienna had moved to an empty row 3 seats back, tears streaming down her face, furiously texting someone. The man in 3C leaned toward his wife. Oh my God, this is the greatest flight of my entire life. A woman in 1A raised her champagne glass toward the cockpit camera. You go, Captain. And I did. I went exactly where I'd planned to go, straight into the history books as the woman who destroyed her cheating husband's life at 35,000 feet with nothing but a microphone and the truth. Hashtag the resolution. The descent into Paris was the smoothest of my entire career. I guided that Dreamliner through the pre-dawn darkness over the Atlantic like I was cradling something precious. Every adjustment to the throttle, every degree of flap extension, every radio call to French air traffic control, flawless. Textbook. Perfect. Air France 447 Heavy, you are cleared to land runway 27 right. Wind 240 at 8 knots. Cleared to land 27 right, Air France 447 Heavy. The runway lights appeared through the morning mist like a path of gold. The main wheels kissed the tarmac so gently that several passengers actually applauded. You almost never hear applause for a landing anymore, but this one deserved it. Jean-Luc glanced at me with something like awe. Marina, that was exceptional. Thank you. My voice was steady, but inside, I was trembling with adrenaline and triumph and something that felt dangerously close to joy. I'd done it. I'd flown across an ocean with my husband and his mistress in my cabin, made my announcement, held my composure, and landed safely. I'd controlled every single second of that flight. And I wasn't done yet. As we taxied to the gate, I made one final announcement. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Paris Charles de Gaulle Airport. Local time is 7:42 a.m. On behalf of myself and the entire crew, thank you for flying with us today. I hope you all have a wonderful time in the city of love. I paused, just for a heartbeat. Especially those of you who are here with your actual partners. Safe travels, everyone. The cabin exploded with laughter and applause. Through the security camera, I watched Derek slumped in his seat, head in his hands. Sienna was already standing, grabbing her designer bag, desperate to escape. Keisha's voice crackled through. "Captain, you're a legend. First class is buzzing. Copy that. See you at the gate." The jetway connected with a soft thump. The cabin door opened. Passengers began filing out, business travelers, families, couples. And almost every single person who'd been in first class stopped to look back at Derek. An elderly French woman in a Chanel suit paused beside his seat. She'd been sitting in 3D. She looked at Derek with the kind of contempt usually reserved for people who kick puppies. She was holding a paper cup of coffee. "Monsieur," she said in heavily accented English, "this is for what you did to your wife." And she dumped the entire cup directly onto his lap. Derek yelped, jumping up, coffee dripping down his expensive suit. "What the?" "Tu es pathetique," the woman spat, and walked away with her head high. The passengers behind her didn't say a word. They just glared as they passed. One man shook his head. A woman whispered, "Disgusting," just loud enough for Derek to hear. Sienna had already vanished into the terminal, running on her expensive heels, mascara streaking her face. I took my time with the post-flight checks. Shutdown procedures. Logbook entries. Every item completed with meticulous care. Jean-Luc was watching me. "You know the video is probably already online, yes?" "I know. Your airline might have questions. Let them ask." I closed the logbook with a decisive snap. I didn't violate a single regulation. I made a PA announcement. I maintained control of my aircraft. I didn't touch a passenger or deny anyone service. Everything I did was within my authority as captain. Jean-Luc smiled. "You've thought this through." I had 7 hours over the Atlantic. I thought everything through. I grabbed my crew bag and walked toward the jetway. The flight attendants were waiting, Keisha, Marcus, and Yuki, all grinning like they'd just witnessed the Super Bowl. "Captain," Marcus said, barely containing his excitement, "that was the single greatest flight of my career. I got everything on video." Derek arguing with Sienna, passengers confronting him, the coffee incident, all of it. "Send it to this number," I said, handing him a business card. "She's my attorney. She'll need it for the divorce proceedings." "Already done," Keisha said. "Girl, I sent her 12 videos and 43 photos. Your lawyer is going to feast. I hugged each of them. "Thank you for having my back up there." "Always, Captain," Yuki said. "Your family." I stepped into the terminal. And froze. Because there, right at the gate, were 2 uniformed French airport security officers. And standing between them, looking official and fierce in a black pantsuit, was Gabriela Reyes. She'd flown to Paris. My best friend had gotten on a plane and flown across the Atlantic to be here for this moment. Derek was still at the gate counter, trying to clean coffee off his suit with paper napkins, looking miserable and small and pathetic. Gabriella walked up to him with a folder in her hand. "Derek Ashford?" He looked up, confused. "Yes?" "You've been served." She handed him the folder with the kind of satisfaction usually reserved for winning the lottery. "Divorce papers. Official filing as of 9 a.m. Eastern Time this morning. You'll also find a restraining order preventing you from contacting my client, accessing joint accounts, or returning to the marital residence. Your belongings will be boxed and shipped. Have a wonderful day." Derek's mouth fell open. "You can't, this isn't legal." "Sir," one of the security officers said in perfect English, "if you cause a disturbance, we will detain you. Please take your papers and move along." And then Gabriella turned and saw me. She ran, across the terminal and threw her arms around me. "You magnificent, brilliant, badass woman. I've been watching the videos for the last hour. The internet is losing its mind. It's online already? Marina, you're viral." Like, worldwide, viral. Hashtag Captain Marina is trending on Twitter. TikTok is exploding. Someone made a remix of your announcement with dramatic music. You're a hero. I felt dizzy. I just wanted him to face consequences. Oh, he's facing them. Gabriella pulled out her phone, scrolling rapidly. His business partners are already distancing themselves. 3 investors pulled out of his current development project. His company's PR team released a statement saying his personal conduct does not reflect company values. And Sienna Blake? She posted a 5-minute Instagram video crying about how he lied to her, and now she's getting sympathy while Derek is getting destroyed. It's beautiful. It's poetic. We walked through Charles de Gaulle together, me in my captain's uniform, Gabriella in her power suit, 2 women who'd built themselves from nothing and refused to be diminished by men who underestimated them. Passengers from my flight recognized me. They stopped to shake my hand, to take photos, to tell me I was brave. A young girl, maybe 10 years old, tugged on her mother's sleeve and pointed at me. Maman, c'est elle. The captain. The mother smiled and walked over. Excuse me, Captain. My daughter wants to know, can she take a picture with you? She says you're her hero. I knelt down to the girl's level. What's your name? Sophie. Sophie, do you want to be a pilot someday? She nodded shyly. Then you listen to me, okay? Don't let anyone tell you you're not good enough. Don't let anyone make you small. You fly as high as you want, and you never, ever, let someone else control your wings. Deal? Deal, she whispered, eyes wide. I took the photo with her. Her smile could have lit up the entire terminal. 3 weeks later, Transatlantic Airways called me into headquarters. I thought I might be in trouble. Despite following every regulation, the publicity had been significant. The video had 40 million views. News outlets were calling for interviews. The airline's social media was flooded with messages about me. I sat across from the VP of Flight Operations, a former Air Force pilot named Susan Chen who'd been one of my mentors when I was coming up through the ranks. She looked at me seriously for a long moment. Then she smiled. Captain Castellanos, I'm not going to pretend that your creative use of the PA system wasn't controversial. We've had discussions. Long discussions. My heart sank. However, Susan continued, we've also had an unprecedented surge in applications from women wanting to become pilots. Our brand recognition has increased by 40%. And we've received over 15,000 messages from passengers specifically requesting to fly on your routes. She slid a folder across the desk. We're promoting you to international training captain. You'll be mentoring new pilots, representing the airline at aviation conferences, and serving as our spokesperson for women in aviation initiatives. It comes with a substantial raise, better scheduling, and your choice of base assignments. I stared at the folder. I don't know what to say. Say yes, Marina. You've shown the world what leadership looks like. Now show our pilots. Yes, I whispered. Yes. The divorce was finalized in 67 days. Derek tried to fight for the house my credit had secured, my down payment had funded back when his business was still struggling. The judge took one look at the evidence, the videos, the hotel reservations, the credit card statements for jewelry I'd never received, and awarded me the house, half his business assets, and a settlement large enough that I could retire tomorrow if I wanted to. I didn't want to retire. I wanted to fly. 6 months later, I stood in front of 200 aspiring pilots at an aviation conference in Seattle. My name is Captain Marina Castellanos, I began. And I want to tell you that this career will test you. It will challenge you. People will doubt you. They'll underestimate you. They'll try to make you prove yourself over and over again. I paused, looking out at the young faces, so many of them women, so many of them hungry for the sky. But here's what I learned at 35,000 feet on a night when my whole world was falling apart. You are always the captain of your own life. Other people can sit in the passenger seats. They can make requests. They can create turbulence. But you control the aircraft. You decide the destination. And when someone tries to hijack your flight, I smiled. You remind them who's in command. You remind them who earned the wings. And you land that plane exactly where you want it to go. The room erupted in applause. I learned that day, somewhere over the Atlantic, with my hands steady on the controls and my husband's betrayal exposed in the cabin behind me, that my wings were never given to me by anyone. I earned them myself. Every flight hour. Every certification. Every moment I refused to quit when the world told me I didn't belong in a cockpit. Derek wanted Paris with someone else. He wanted romance and champagne and the illusion that he could rewrite our story without consequences. But he forgot one critical thing. I was the one who controlled whether he got there safely. I was the one with the authority, the training, the power. He was just a passenger in my aircraft. And passengers don't get to dictate the flight path. You see, people who betray you often make a fatal mistake. They assume you'll stay in the background. They assume you'll stay quiet. They assume that because you've been patient, you must be weak. They forget that sometimes, the quietest people are simply waiting for the perfect moment. The perfect altitude. The perfect angle of approach. And when that moment comes, they land the blow with precision that comes from years of training in how to handle emergencies with grace under pressure. My mother used to say, Mija, cuando vuelan alto, no pueden esconderse. When you fly high, you cannot hide. Derek tried to hide. But at 35,000 feet, there's nowhere to run. There's only the truth, the sky, and the woman in the captain's seat who refuses to let betrayal ground her. I'm still flying. Higher than ever. And I'm never looking back. Thank you for flying with me on this story. If this inspired you, drop a comment below telling me, how would you handle betrayal? Would you stay silent or would you make your move? I want to hear your thoughts. Smash that like button if you believe karma is real and that women who take control of their own destiny deserve to win. And subscribe because I'll be bringing you more real-life stories of strength, justice, and people who refuse to let anyone clip their wings. Remember, you're always the captain of your own destiny. Other people can buy tickets, but you decide the destination. Safe travels, everyone. And may your skies always be clear. Captain Marina Castellanos, signing off.